There is a moment, brief, electric, final, just before the ramp drops. The aircraft shudders. The crew chief scans the tree line. Boots shift on a metal floor. Every Marine inside knows what's coming. The door opens, and the ground rushes up. This is the air assault. Not a concept, not a training exercise. A doctrine, decades in the making, written in the blood and lessons of every conflict America has fought since the Second World War. It is the Marine Corps' answer to a single question that generals have wrestled with for generations. How do you put fighting power exactly where it needs to be, at exactly the moment it matters, faster than the enemy can prepare? The answer, the Marines found, is not to go around the obstacle, it is to fly over it. The story of the Marine Corps air assault begins not on a battlefield, but at a test site in the Pacific. In 1946, General Roy S. Geiger stood at Bikini Atoll and watched an atomic bomb detonate. What he saw changed how he thought about warfare forever. Dense formations of troops on beaches, the classic amphibious assault, were now catastrophically vulnerable. One weapon could end an entire landing force before it reached the shore. Geiger's conclusion was direct. The Marines had to spread out. They had to attack from the air, not just from the sea. The Commandant of the Marine Corps convened what became known as the Hogaboom Board. Its recommendation was clear. Develop transport helicopters, use them to insert troops across a diffused front, and eliminate the bottleneck of the beach entirely. In 1947, the Marine Corps stood up its first experimental helicopter squadron, HMX-1. By 1948, it had published the first American military manual for helicopter-borne operations. The Marines didn't borrow this idea, they invented it. They called it vertical envelopment, the ability to buy past defended ground and land a fighting force behind the enemy's lines, on terrain the enemy did not expect to defend. Where conventional assaults grind forward through obstacles, the air assault lifts above them. Let's be precise about what an air assault operation is and what it demands. It is not simply loading troops onto a helicopter and flying somewhere. It is a synchronized, multi-layered military operation involving infantry units, aviation elements, combat support, logistics, fire coordination, intelligence, and command and control, all fused together in a timeline measured in minutes, sometimes seconds. According to Marine Corps tactical publication 301B, Air Assault Operations, the doctrine emphasizes the coordination necessary between ground forces, aviation, combat support, and combat service support organizations, from the earliest stages of planning through the final extraction. Every element of that chain must work in unison. A failure anywhere, a blocked landing zone, a delayed refueling, a broken radio link, can unravel the entire operation. The planning begins long before the rotors spin. For major air assault exercises, planning has been known to begin months in advance, working out the logistics of how to place hundreds of Marines onto multiple aircraft, get them to a precise insertion point, keep fire teams, squads and platoons intact, and execute the mission before the enemy can react. Marine Corps times: the landing zone must be identified, evaluated, and controlled. Landing zone teams, including a headquarters element, a helicopter control element, and an LZ platoon, facilitate the pickup, movement, and landing of assault troops, equipment, and supplies, and also the evacuation of casualties and prisoners of war. These teams are the silent architecture of every successful assault. They are on the sea, aground first, often before anyone else, and they hold the mission together while everyone else lands behind them. Marines. The air assault runs on machines, and the Marines fly some of the most capable machines ever built. The workhorse of the modern Marine air assault is the MV-22B Osprey. The MV-22B gives Marine forces a unique ability to combine the vertical landing characteristics of a helicopter with the speed and range of a turboprop aircraft. It took off for the first time in 1989, entered service with the Marines in 2007, and immediately changed the mathematics of what was possible. Army recognition. A single MV-22B can carry 24 combat-equipped Marines, operate from ship or shore, carry an external load up to 10,000 pounds over 50 nautical miles, and self-deploy 2,263 nautical miles with a single aerial refueling. That last number matters enormously. It means a Marine force can move across ocean distances without needing a land base. Launching from a ship, inserting on a coastline or deep inland, and returning to sea before the enemy fully understands what happened. The Osprey's blend of 280-knot cruise speed, 450 nautical mile combat radius, and heavy external lift capacity remains unmatched in the medium lift category. Army recognition. What that speed means in practice is captured in a story that has circulated through marine aviation circles for years. In 2010, a group of Marines who had flown on conventional helicopters boarded an MV-22 Osprey for the first time. The Osprey landed at the destination in 10 minutes, a trip that would have taken a conventional helicopter 45 minutes or more. The Marines didn't move. They sat on the aircraft, telling the crew they weren't there yet. They were there. They just didn't believe it yet. Defense. Info. That gap between what the aircraft could do and what the human mind expected took years to close. It illustrates something important about military capability. The machine can be ready before the doctrine catches up. Alongside the Osprey, the CH-53E Super Stallion Pro provides the raw heavy lift that no other rotary wing platform in the inventory can match. For exercise steel pike, nearly 500 Marines in waves loaded onto 6 CH-53E Super Stallions and 8 MV-22 Ospreys to offload and set up a perimeter at a nearby landing zone, meeting an opposing force equipped with all-terrain vehicles and using shoot-and-move tactics. That was a training exercise. In combat, the scale and stakes are real. Marine Corps times, attack helicopters provide the shield that makes the assault possible. Marine light attack helicopter squadrons combine AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters and UH-1Y Venom utility helicopters, providing light attack capability and close air support for ground forces. The Viper does not simply escort the transports. It suppresses enemy defenses, clears landing zones, and remains overhead to protect the force on the ground until extraction. Army recognition. The truth about risk. Here is something the recruiting posters do not say. Air assault is one of the most demanding and unforgiving forms of military operation. The aircraft are extraordinary machines, but they are not invincible. The V-22 Osprey program has had crashes, including a fatal accident in 2023 that killed 8 airmen and resulted in a multi-month grounding of the entire fleet. Following the grounding, Marine expeditionary units had to adapt using CH-53E heavy-lift helicopters for assault support, while the Osprey fleet returned to service under new operational restrictions. The restrictions cut into the aircraft's usefulness and forced units to revise their planning and doctrine while the engineering problems were addressed. USNI News. In the year 2000 alone, 2 fatal crashes killed a total of 23 Marines, and the V-22 program was grounded while causes were investigated and parts redesigned. These are not footnotes. They are part of the record, and they matter. Every advance in military aviation carries a cost in lives and in hard-won corrections. The Marines who fly and ride these aircraft know that. They train accordingly. Wikipedia. The Osprey is also expensive. Production costs are considerably greater than for helicopters with equivalent capability, roughly twice as great as for the CH-53E. And an Osprey unit has cost around $60 million to produce, compared with $35 million for a helicopter equivalent. The Marine Corps has invested in this platform because the capability it provides, speed, range, ship-to-shore reach, cannot be replicated otherwise. But that investment carries real trade-offs in defense budgeting and in the political weight of any future accidents. Wikipedia. The aircraft are tools. The Marines are the force. Marine medium tiltrotor squadrons combine MV-22B Ospreys with AH-1Z Viper helicopters, enabling rapid maneuver, close air support, armed reconnaissance, and escort missions for amphibious and expeditionary operations. These squadrons are the aviation element of the Marine Air-Ground Task Force, a self-contained warfighting unit that combines infantry, aviation, logistics, and command under a single headquarters. Army recognition. Within an ARG-MEU configuration, the Amphibious Ready Group and Marine Expeditionary Unit pairing, the Integrated Aviation and Ground Force provides a scalable crisis response unit that can integrate an aviation combat element, a ground combat element, a logistics element, and a command element under a single deployable headquarters. The ship is the base, the helicopter is the bridge, the Marine is the instrument. Army recognition. Operating from amphibious assault ships allows the Marine Expeditionary Unit to project combat power without fixed land bases, supporting U.S. strategy in theaters where rapid response and presence deter adversaries and reassure allies. Army recognition. This is the architecture behind the concept. Not just a dramatic insertion of troops, but a sustained, ship-based, self-supporting force that can appear anywhere within a combat radius, strike, and return to sea, leaving no permanent footprint, requiring no host nation permission, dependent on no airfield. There is no shortcut to this capability. These activities, live-fire exercises, integrated at sea training, aviation ground coordination, sharpen expeditionary combat skills, and maintain readiness across air, ground, and maritime elements. None of it is automatic. It must be practiced, corrected, and practiced again. Army recognition. The Marine who jumps from the back of an Osprey into a contested landing zone has been through thousands of hours of collective training. So has the pilot who flew him there. So has the Viper crew holding the perimeter at 500 feet. So has the logistics Marine calculating fuel loads, and the controller directing traffic over a chaotic landing zone, and the battalion commander timing 3 simultaneous insertions down to the second. The doctrine is elegant. The execution is brutal in its demands. The phrase is simple. Fly in, get it done. Fly out. But behind that phrase is a century of hard thinking about how a democracy defends itself and projects power without permanent occupation. It is a commitment to speed over mass, precision over volume, and the irreplaceable judgment of a trained Marine with boots on the ground. The air assault is not a fantasy. It is not a recruiting slogan given wings. It is a doctrine tested in Vietnam, refined through 2 decades of operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now being reshaped again for a world of contested airspace, peer competitors, and vast ocean distances. The rotors are already turning somewhere. The ramp is down. The boots hit the ground. What happens next depends on everything that came before. The training, the planning, the aircraft, the pilots, the logistics, the ground truth, and the Marines who step into the unknown and do the job. Fly in, get it done. Fly out.